All right, and we're back here. We're diving into the Atlanta Falcons, next team for the NFC South here. A lot of changes to it, this team as well. Again, which is why I think there's going to be a shuffling of the guard here, because the two bottom teams made some drastic changes, not only to the player personnel, but to the coaching personnel. So Arthur Smith gone. He's now over in Pittsburgh. So you bring in a new Raheem Morris as the head coach. Over from the Rams, and they bring over their passing game coordinator, quarterbacks coach, to be their offensive coordinator. So I kind of like that here. Now, does Kirk Cousins, the new quarterback of this team, need a true changing of a quarterback's coach to the talent? No, I don't think so. But it does help the future of their quarterbacking in why am I drawing Michael Penix? But I also think because he was a wide receiver coach as well at one point, it does help the wide receiver room here a little bit more. I just think the player personnel improvements here are going to be the biggest change.
So the Atlanta Falcons definitely have the most interesting draft pick.
Yeah. Well, let me just say, I think the improvement to this team is getting rid of Arthur Smith. That was the biggest improvement first, because I just think he ran a terrible offense last year. But,
yeah, I mean, quarterback play was terrible. I think they do have some weak weapons here. Desmond Ridder was not the answer. They made a terrible decision drafting him in the first place.
But they drafted him, it was worth the pick. It was worth the shot.
Go and get a veteran that can play. Like this offense could have been a lot more serviceable if they had a legit veteran that can come in there.
Oh, they got a veteran. He just wasn't the veteran you wanted and needed. And like Taylor Heineke is a veteran, but he's not the veteran that they needed.
They had Mariota. They kept going with these guys that were like.
I think Mariota was a decent enough veteran if he stayed healthy, but the offense they ran was not the offense you want to play there.
Yeah. Anyway, so
let's talk about the quarterback situation here.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the quarterback situation. So I did leave a comment on the Pat McAfee show, because they were discussing this, and they were discussing about letting quarterbacks sit behind veterans for a couple of years, and then they brought up Penix and Kirk Cousins and the difference, saying, "Oh yeah, well, the difference is Kirk Cousins just signed the team, and so you're drafting a rookie to a quarterback that doesn't know the culture, that doesn't know the team, that doesn't know kind of how to do it, has kind of moved around. Now this is his third team." But the other difference there is that Michael Penix is a 27-year-old rookie. So by the time Kirk Cousins' contract is up, Penix is going to be 31.
31, yeah. 31, because it's a 4-year deal for Kirk Cousins.
So he's going to get his first starting opportunity.
And a guaranteed 4-year deal. That's the tough part. It's not like they can walk away. Like they've invested $100 million into Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. So this was just kind of a throw. I mean, I get it. You have some you have a legit backup for if anything happened to Kirk Cousins or if he's not ready, but and you're getting a veteran. I think Penix does look pretty good. I think he was a good value. This is the worst team for him to go, because he's gonna we're never gonna see Michael Penix.
I would say it was the worst team for him to go because of the Kirk Cousins signing shortly before the draft. That was the problem. And to me, in my opinion, I think I get why you want to hinge your bets, because Kirk Cousins did tear his Achilles. That being said, he is a quarterback, people. He's a quarterback. We've seen running backs come back from it, but we saw Dan Marino come back from it. Aaron Rodgers is coming back from it. There's torn Achilles is not something. Hell, Kobe Bryant came back from it. People can come back and play.
J.K. Dobbins this year is coming back from it.
Yeah, running back again is a different situation. I mean, Deontay Foreman did it in his second year or rookie year, and he still has a career in the NFL. Kirk Cousins was a top quarterback in yardage and touchdowns through 8 weeks in the NFL last year.
However,
now he doesn't have Justin Jefferson here.
Or Addison. Or T.J. Hawkinson.
But he still has a top tight end. He still has a decent number one wide receiver. They did bring in some other wide receivers to help him. But again, the personnel's different, but Kirk Cousins was a solid quarterback, a above average quarterback in Washington before he left.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins is he's a good quarterback. He's above average. He's going to help this team tremendously from the quarterback position.
Are you drafting him at all, though? Are you taking shares of him at all?
No.
And why?
Because I think where he's going, there's two other quarterbacks there. There's two other veteran quarterbacks there that I like. One being the other dude that tore his Achilles.
Aaron Rodgers.
I'd rather have Aaron Rodgers. I'd rather have the weapons around Aaron Rodgers. I'd rather have the weapons around Matt Stafford Like those are better weapons than what Kirk Cousins has to work with.
So where are you where are you drawing the line for Kirk Cousins? If those two guys, Stafford and him, go before you, and Kirk Cousins is sitting there, are you still fading Kirk Cousins to go for someone else? Like, are you going for Trevor Lawrence?
Yes.
Are you going for
we talked about it when we did
Gardner
the Trevor
Minshew? Are you going for any of the Vikings quarterback? Like, who are you going to go for?
That's where I would draw the line, is like Trevor Lawrence. And we talked about that grouping of quarterbacks last week when we did the breakdown. Is like Trevor Lawrence is in that grouping. I take Trevor Lawrence over Kirk Cousins because the weapons that are there and because of his running ability. I still value Stafford and Rodgers over both those guys. But if Lawrence is available, I'm taking him. If Dak is available, I'm taking Dak. Like, I think Kirk Cousins for me is like the bottom of that. Like, I have zero Kirk Cousins this year.
I think I took Kirk Cousins as my second quarterback one time.
I took
him in best ball as my second quarterback, but I took him second quarterback one time in a mock redraft.
That's where I would draft him. This is a second quarterback.
Yeah, because I took a top quarterback early, or I took a rookie early. I think that's what I did. I think I took Caleb Williams and then I took Kirk Cousins.
Deshaun Watson or Kirk Cousins.
I think Deshaun Watson can finish higher because of his legs, because he did show he'll run too. I think a healthy Kirk Cousins has a higher floor. That's how I feel on a week-to-week basis. But that's just me. I would go Watson still.
Now, I think that what Kirk Cousins does for this offense from a fantasy perspective is he does bump up the rest of the team. So I do like what he's doing for the team. I just don't see this being a true running.
Well, he's a true pocket passer, and you need to hit those milestones. You need to have about 4,000 yards, 4,500 yards, and you need to have over 30 touchdowns to be a fantasy relevant pocket passer. I mean, we saw it in Geno Smith and how quickly you fall out of the top 5, top 6 if you're not doing that. And can Kirk Cousins do that in Atlanta? And I think he can because of the weapon of Bijan Robinson coming out the backfield. He did it with Dalvin Cook for years. He does have a top-tier athletic tight end, albeit that fantasy-wise, Pitts has not been a top-tier tight end for you. And he does have also Drake London, who's a solid wide receiver 1. And they bring in Darnell Mooney and Rondale Moore, one Swiss Army knife guy, and then they bring in Darnell Mooney as a good deep threat. I think there's opportunity here for him to hit that 35 or hit that 4,000 yard mark, and there's an opportunity for him to hit 30 touchdowns in this team.
So instead of drafting Michael Penix, they should have drafted Rome Odunze.
And then that would have been a completely different ballgame.
And now we're talking, okay, I love this team. I love Kirk Cousins here. But they drafted Michael Penix, and they don't have a legit number 2.
No, but
like Rondale Moore, and the way I see Rondale Moore and Darnell Mooney are both Swiss Army knife kind of gadget receivers. They're not the answer at the number 2. They're not going to line up. And they have Kyle Pitts that can do that.
Who's your number 2?
Right. And I'm really, he's probably the guy I'm most excited about in this offense.
Me too.
On like the improvement of, with Kirk Cousins is what Kyle Pitts is going to do. And we'll get to Kyle Pitts in a little bit, but that's where I think Kirk Cousins helps the players the most. Him and Drake London, I think, are the two guys that we know what Bijan's going to be. We know what Algier is going to be. Like, we know what that running game is going to be. What is the improved quarterback play going to do for the pass catchers on this team?
Well, let's get into the pass catchers then here, because we've already talked about Kirk Cousins. We know you're not drafting Michael Penix. You're not handcuffing Penix with Cousins, because that's a bad idea for. I mean, maybe if you want to go draft him with your last pick in a best ball team, in the case that Kirk Cousins gets hurt again and then you have Penix, but you're not drafting Penix except in Dynasty. And even then, it's a terrible pick in Dynasty because we just talked about that. So wide receiver-wise, where they added, like we said, they added Darnell Mooney, they added Rondale Moore to already having Drake London, and then Kyle Pitts as your tight end.
Yep.
I'm excited for Kyle Pitts as you are. Let's talk about Drake London. Drake London is this guy that his ADP is inflated purely because of Kirk Cousins. And this is what I feel like is going to be. I feel like this is the second coming of Terry McLaurin, who's going to get plenty of targets, plenty of yardage and is not going to have over 5 touchdowns on a season. 5-6 touchdowns. And I think that's because, one, the running game here is very good. Algier is a solid number 2 and should have his. Bijan Robinson, if they use him like Christian McCaffrey, is going to get a lot of touchdowns. And Kyle Pitts is the bigger body and stronger guy in the red zone and should be. So I just think for me to put a second-round pick on Drake London, which is where he's going right now, is, early third round is still too rich for my blood.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about him and being like kind of the most inflated ADP, and I have 0 shares of him either. Like, I've kind of stayed away from the Atlanta Falcons altogether.
Pitts is the only one that I've put actually any stake into.
I haven't been
and Rondell Moore.
Yeah, and I haven't been in a position to draft Bijan. I've either been early. I've never been in like the middle of the first round. So I've always been early or late, and he's never been there late for me. And early, I'm not going to take him. I'm just not. But I can't bring myself to draft Drake London. I can't. Like,
it hurts. It hurts to draft London.
I value a lot of players over him. Devontae Adams, I would draft over him.
100%. 100% would draft over him.
Not even a question.
I would draft Jalen Waddle over him because of the opportunities on the team there and the way he's used over London.
Devonta Smith, I would argue, you can go. I mean,
T. Higgins, you could argue, should have the same finish as
Mike
London.
Evans.
You can get T. Higgins around
Michael
later. Michael Pittman, way over him. Yeah, there's Cooper Kupp. I would take Cooper Kupp over him. Because what is London going to do more than those guys? Nothing. So you're going to lose out on a top end running back or quarterback.
Everyone's assuming that Kirk Cousins made Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, and
that's not true. It's just not true. So they think that he's going to come into this offense and make Drake London a thing, and it's not.
Well, here's the thing. We just did a mock draft. So let's take a look at – I want to take a look at where he went in that mock draft. And this was in a standard scoring. And Drake London ended up going the 2-4. So 4th pick in the second round.
He was one of the reasons that Marvin Harrison fell down to me in that second.
Devontae Adams, Olave, Harrison. See, I would take London over Olave on the chance that Cousins improves them back because they're similar to me.
I would do that.
But I'd take Harrison over him. Nico Collins went after him. I'd take Nico over him. Ayuk over him. Evans over him. Debo over him. Would you take Stephon Diggs over him? I think that's where I draw the line. But the problem is DJ Moore I'd take over him, who went after that. Waddle I'd take over him. I'd take Metcalf over him because of the touchdowns.
I mean, that's
Kupp, Devonta Smith, Michael Pittman all went. At that point,
London's numbers are going to go up. Are they going to go up significant enough to where he's going to jump? He's going to jump up into the first or second round position. I don't think so.
He has yet to have a 1,000-yard season in his first 2 years.
Yep.
He's yet to have more than 4 touchdowns.
Yep.
He only had 110 targets last year. He played 16 out of the 17 games. He was wide receiver.
Well, the thing is, like, people want to complain like they were behind in games. He should have been more involved. And look at what Garrett Wilson has done. And people want to complain about the quarterback play, but look what Garrett Wilson has done.
It was worse there.
Way worse.
And you look at people like Cortland Sutton, worse situation quarterback wise at times too there, and he was good. You look at all these other teams. I mean, look at the Patriots. Some Patriots receivers were better. I mean, Kendrick Bourne was pumping out better fantasy value for you and healthy than Drake London was. And I think it's going to be the same situation. So Darnell Mooney is an interesting one that I'm not drafting at all because I don't see the value, but he's one that could sneak up because of his role that he had in Chicago. If they bring that to Atlanta, and I'm just going to say that here, that deep ball threat, it reminds me a little bit of Addison next to Jefferson. He's going to have opportunities getting open. Justin Fields, I'm just going to put this out there. Justin Fields is the reason why he's no longer in Chicago. Justin Fields does not throw a good deep ball. I was talking about this with Nick. If you watch Justin Fields throw a football, people, he throws a great solid spiral. He's got low arc, and he hits the guys on target for the most of the time. He throws a lot of the 3/4 angle. You look at Russell Wilson, right on top, traditional style way you throw the ball, gets a little bit more air underneath it. Russell Wilson, the way if he was in Chicago last year, would have hit Darnell Mooney in stride more times instead of overthrowing him like Fields did, and Mooney would have been fantasy relevant as a flex play. Now, do I think he's fantasy relevant here? if Kirk Cousins spreads the ball around and they are a pass-first offense, which I don't think they're going to be, but if they're more pass-heavy than they were last year, he could be because Addison was fantasy relevant even when Jefferson was there. But is the volume going to be there as much? Are the plays going to be that big? I don't know. I'm more invested in the running game here than I am in the receivers.
Yeah, and going to the running game, I think that Tyler Algier is another guy that I've consistently gotten drafted, especially if I'm not going to have an opportunity to get Bijan in a lot of the drafts that you're doing, but Tyler Algier is a guy you should absolutely go and draft. If there's any injury to Bijan, he's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher. But even if he's not, Bijan's not going to take the workload. So this is kind of the David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs role. Like, Algier's still relevant there. And I don't care how much they want to push Bijan up. They're not going to put 100% of the workload or 80% of the workload on Bijan. It's going to be a 70-30 split. It's going to be a 60-40 split there like it was last year. Bijan's going to get more relevant reps, and Bijan should take a huge jump. Bijan's really, really talented.
I think Bijan's going to take the massive passing game role there, 100%.
Yeah.
But you better believe.
You look at what Algier did in the passing game role. There were a couple plays last year where he took a 60-yard screen pass to the house.
That's what I'm saying. He can do it.
So
they don't have to worry about separating
Bijan's just
the two.
a better version of Algier. Algier can do everything that Bijan can do, but Bijan brings the quickness, the quick cuts,
the vision too.
He's a better version of Algier, but Algier's still going to be involved. Where this is not a workhorse running back, and this is where it's really hard for me to even put him in the top 3 conversation. Really, for me, it's Brees, McCaffrey. I know you want to put Saquon up there, but it's Brees and McCaffrey, and then
you start going everywhere else.
Then you can make an argument for Jonathan Taylor there, or
Saquon, Bijan,
Derrick Henry, and you can make an argument for everyone else. But Brees and McCaffrey are the clear 1-2. And then it's just everyone else after that. If you're drafting Bijan over Brees, like, that's a mistake.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm drafting. In fact, like, if I'm in the 2 spot like you were, and I'm sitting there and McCaffrey fell to me, even at the 2 spot, if McCaffrey went before me, I'd be tempted to take Brees, especially in standard scoring. Take Brees number 2 overall, even number 1 overall. If you have a feeling that, again, we talked about. It's rare that a running back finishes number 1 overall and becomes the number 1 running back again the next year. So why not take a shot at someone like Brees being that number 1 overall? It's all there for it to happen. But for Bijan, I agree. I can't find it in me. He doesn't drop to me at the end of the first round, and I'm not willing to take him in the top of the first round. So you really have to be in those middle rounds to take him, and I'm a little more comfortable there. So if you are at the 6, 7, 8, and he's sitting there for you, especially at 8, I'd feel comfortable taking him.
Yeah.
But if you're at the 6 and it's Justin Jefferson or him, I'd rather take the difference maker in Jefferson and grab somebody else on the back end like ETN or Pacheco, somebody that's going to be falling to the second round that's going to give you very good output that you don't need to take a chance on there. Because Algier, to me, I watched last night's game of the Monday Night Football where they doubleheader where it was Giants, Packers, and I think it was Falcons, Vikings. And it was the game after Cousins got hurt and Dobbs came in and led them back to that last-minute victory. Algier was used heavily in a lot of parts, and they're saying they want to give Bijan more of a McCaffrey role. But when Algier was in, the dude was ripping out 5 yards per carry roughly the whole game there. He was good in the passing game. He's great in pass protection. And listen, Bijan can't be in there every single play. Like, we get that.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is that, like, if you're gonna throw a dart at the wall for a late round, like, Algier is a great option, and not only as a handcuff, but like as there are going to be weeks when he goes off. If you like Chase Brown behind Zach Moss, you should love Tyler Algier behind.
That's what I was going to say. Let's talk about to me Bijan, Algier. The top duo though I think is Gibbs and Montgomery. Like if you're going to take 2 guys there, because I think there's going to be
Brees and Braylon.
Well, I think it's Brees.
Well, I'm saying you're talking about duos.
No, I'm saying duos. I'm talking about like timeshares, like 2 running back where the RB2 has.
I don't think it's going to be that close. I don't think it's going to be that close. I still think it is that
Bijan's role.
It's Bijan's
role.
So
you think it's going to be more Bijan than the Gibbs Montgomery situation?
Yes.
And more like you think it's going to be closer to your Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd situation, AJ Dillon, Marshawn Lloyd.
No, I think that's on the extreme. You think Marshawn Lloyd's going to get a lot more work than he is?
No. I'm just saying I think somebody else is going to get more work than Josh Jacobs having the entire backfield there.
I think it's going to be.
I think
it's going to be probably more along the lines of like Connor and Trey Benson.
Okay. Which I think is closer to Jacobs and
Jacobs is going to take like 90% of carries there.
We'll see.
It's going to happen.
We have yet to see Green Bay do that in a while. So
they didn't have Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, they still young Aaron Jones was
who was not Josh Jacobs.
He was. All right,
he's not Josh Jacobs.
We'll talk about.
He's not the same running back. They're not the same style.
We will talk. Doesn't matter about style.
It does matter about style.
It doesn't matter about style.
It absolutely does.
If somebody's ripping off 1,000-yard seasons and going touchdowns like crazy and catching balls out the backfield, it doesn't matter.
Has Aaron Jones ever been the league rusher, league rushing title?
No, because Green Bay has never had a full-on rusher. That's just taken 90% of the carries. They haven't had anybody do that yet.
Because they had Aaron Rodgers.
So it doesn't matter.
It does matter.
Okay.
It does matter.
Let's finish up here. Let's talk about Kyle Pitts a little bit because both you and I agree. I think this guy takes the biggest boost on this offense.
I think this is the year to draft Kyle Pitts. I know everyone is trying to make fetch happen and make Kyle Pitts happen last couple years.
But the value is the best part about it.
Oh, you're not drafting him in the third round anymore.
No, you're not drafting him as a top 3 tight end. You're drafting him as a top 6 tight end.
So he's going as the top. Yeah, he's going as number 6, and I think that's a great value for him. You can get him in the 5th or 6th round, and I think again that's a great value for him. If you don't want to go and draft Kincaid in the 4th, if you don't want to go and draft Laporta and Kels and waste an early round draft pick on a tight end, Kyle Pitts is your guy. I think Kyle Pitts is a guy that is going to end up getting a lot of volume here. We saw last year him get open and
just couldn't be hit.
Ritter just was not even looking in that direction.
Yeah.
And so I think having the upgrade at quarterback where you have a veteran that understands where his players are, where his playmakers are, and where to get the ball and where the matchups are, that's where I think Cousins brings a lot of the veteran presence and the understanding of what other teams are trying to do to them.
Plus, he's thrown to Justin Jefferson and hitting him in stride, a guy who's got speed and length and gets open too. You got a quarterback that knows how to hit a guy open in his strengths and hit him in the right spots. And if they get their rapport going, it's going to be dangerous.
Like this is a year where we talked about like the touchdown production of Kyle Pitts and how it's just not there. I think this is a year where he's going to probably go for 8+ touchdowns.
I agree. But here's the difficult part for me. George Kittle is going 2 rounds after him, almost. 1 round, 2 rounds after him. I just don't know if it's worth me taking in the 5th round where you get some of these other wide receivers or some of these last chance running backs for like your Aaron Joneses.
But you're also talking about the difference of one person, right? So
it's one tight end difference, yes, but the picks difference, the round difference.
Yes, but there's 6 or 7 wide receivers that you can get from that bunch, and there's only Kyle Pitts and George Kittle. The drop off after that is Engram.
Yeah, well, which still again Ingram there.
Okay,
too.
But then the drop off from that is what?
No, I'm just saying. Are you going to take Pitts in the 5th round with the picks there, when you have, to me, Kittle, who was tried true.
It depends on where I am. It depends on what teams have around me. Yeah, like I would take Pitts up there.
But do you take Pitts over Kittle?
No, I take Kittle over Pitts.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a personal preference.
I don't think it should be a personal preference. It should be historical data too, as well. Like you're saying, this is going to be the first year that Pitts finishes over Kittle.
It could be if the touchdowns go up, which we expect them to be. Like the only reason, like the talent is there for Pitts. He's been on a team where they don't utilize the tight end and they don't utilize him as a receiver. Like, again, you look at him get open. You look at him running routes. Like, he's open. They don't have a team that focuses on the tight ends. I mean, Kittle's great because he plays in a system where the tight ends are right there. All right, what stats did you pull up?
I'm pulling up the finishes from last year.
Okay.
All right. 2023 finish. Sorry, this is
Kittle had the most receiving yards of any tight end last year.
That's what I'm saying. So Laporta finished this is in standard scoring. He finished 1 overall, and then it was Kittle number 2. It was about a 8-point difference between the two.
Sure.
Then Kelsey, Hawkinson, who didn't even play the full season, Njoku, Ingram, and then obviously the anomaly Taysom Hill. But to me, in terms of Kyle Pitts, he finished 13th last year.
So let me just stop you there
Yeah.
because Hawkinson finished 4 and didn't play half the season.
Yeah.
Same with his quarterback, Kirk Cousins.
So Kittle had 6 touchdowns.
So what
Laporta's-
I'm saying is there's going to be a jump from where Kyle Pitts is to where he's going to be, and I think you can feel comfortable drafting him around that. I mean, I think Kittle's being underdrafted for sure.
Now but here's the thing: Kittle was the only 1,000-yard receiving tight end.
Yes.
Hawkinson was 960 and Ingram was 963, so they were the two next closest. But Laporta had 10 touchdowns, Kittle had 6, Ingram had 4. Like, where do you see them in comparison to those type of seasons? Do you see him being a 1,000-yard receiver, Kyle Pitts? Do you see him being a 6+ touchdown guy?
Yes.
Like, do you see the combination of the two? Because last year
Yes.
there was not a tight end with the combination of two.
So again, Hawkinson was on pace to do that.
Yes, I get it with that. Yeah, I get it.
Okay. Is Kyle Pitts a more athletic than T.J. Hawkinson?
He is. But does Kyle Pitts have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison taking coverage away?
Doesn't matter.
How does it not matter?
Because you're not going to lock up a corner on Kyle Pitts.
They do, because he goes out wide more than he's in.
No, but you can't. He's a matchup nightmare there.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you just double team him?
You're not lining up. That's again.
And you can.
You're not going to double team Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, you'll have a corner locked up on him and a safety up top.
All right. If that's what you think defenses are going to do, then fine. But like I do think that there's going to be a huge increase in both his receiving yardage and his touchdown ability.
I don't disagree with you there, but I just see it very difficult to see a tight end who did not do it last year in the year that I think we saw the biggest jump in tight ends in fantasy.
But you can't look at it like that.
How could you not look at it like that?
Because Desmond Ridder was his quarterback.
Okay, I'm not saying that he's not going to be improved, because I'm saying he's going to be improved.
You went Darren Waller from the Vegas Raiders to the New York Giants, and he didn't do anything. Even in the games that he did play, he didn't do anything because the quarterback play was terrible.
Yes, but you're telling me Kyle Pitts is all of a sudden going to be 1,000-yard receiver?
He was a 1,000-yard receiver.
1 year.
Okay.
And he had 0 touchdowns.
Yes.
Okay. So 1,000-yard receiver, and you're saying he's going to have over 6 touchdowns on top of that.
Yes.
So he's going to be the main pass catcher in Atlanta.
Do you think Drake London is?
I think he will be.
So who do you think number 2 is?
It's him.
So do you think Kirk Cousins is going to be a top 10? You literally just got done saying Kirk Cousins has all this potential. He's going to come in here and he's going to throw the ball around.
And then
who's the number 2
And then guess what I just said? This is going to be a run-first offense.
I know that. It's going to be a run-first offense.
This is not Philadelphia.
But Green Bay was a run-first offense. And you saw a huge production from multiple wide receivers there.
Green Bay established the run.
Okay.
Not a run-heavy offense.
San Francisco is a run-first offense.
Yes.
And they had 3,000-yard receivers.
Yeah. And all of them are yak monsters. That's the thing. It's like if you look at
you had the Vegas Raiders last year as a run-first offense.
Had one big target on the passing game.
But what I'm saying is that
and they couldn't run the ball in Vegas.
What I'm saying is, I think Kyle Pitts is the best receiving weapon on this team.
Mm-hmm.
So he is going to have a huge jump in those numbers because he's going to be a guy that is a matchup nightmare. You're going to have to put safeties and linebackers, and even so, he's a mismatch for safeties, he's a mismatch for corners, and he's a mismatch for linebackers. This is the year where we've all been kind of waiting for Kyle Pitts to be like, when he came into the league, he was like, this guy's a freak, right? An absolute freak. Because he's the size of a tight end, but he runs like a wide receiver, and he moves like a wide receiver. This is a year where they're going to actually be able to put those skills to use because he actually has legitimate quarterback play on the back end of it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Do I draft him over Kittle? No, it's because that's a personal preference. But do I believe that Kyle Pitts should be in that conversation? Yeah. I think he should be getting drafted within the first 6 rounds of the draft. And he's a guy where, like, if you don't want to draft Trey McBride and Mark Andrews and spend the 4th round capital on Kincaid, then you go and draft Kyle Pitts in the 6th. and make sure that you get him.
Okay. And I'm saying he's going 5th, and I'm saying I like Kittle in the 6th. But I don't disagree. I think the improvement is going to be there. I think he has a chance to finish above people like Kincaid because he is going to be probably one of the top pass catchers there. I'm just fueling your fire. I just want to see you get fired up.
I know.
At the end of the day, it is the fact that last year had only one person was on pace for 1,000 and over 6 touchdowns or 8 touchdowns, and that was Hawkinson, and his quarterback for 8 games was who? Yeah, it makes sense, but again, that's a lot to ask from the tight end group, and you're paying for that tight end group. And the wide receivers that are going right around the same area as Kincaid are your Pittmans and you're some of the other guys.
But you're getting that in the 4th when you're not drafting you're not drafting Kincaid there.
Yeah,
right?
So I'm saying I could see you making a chance. But we'll close up there for the Atlanta Falcons. We'll take a quick break. We will come back here with the New Orleans Saints.
New Orleans.